Hi Hector, my name is Daphne. I'm one of the essay correctors here at IeltsPodcast.com. Thank you for sending in your essay for correction. This is a task 2, obviously, that I think you've chosen the essay yourself, maybe. Employees, some organisations believe employees should dress smartly. Others value quality of work above appearance. Discuss both these views and give your opinion. Okay, very important here. I've just been reading it through. You give your opinion in the introduction and again in the conclusion. So let's go through it. So few enterprises, be careful of this word few. Few is only about 2 or 3. So you want to, I think you mean probably most, insist rather than few. You'd either have to say a few, which is like not very many, or you'd have to say most. Just from I think reading through, you want most. Enterprises insist on the fact that employees should opt for formal clothes at work. Join this together. However, some employees do not give any restriction on clothes, as long as you don't need a comma there. Keep going. As long as the performance of employees is optimal. So the performance, you wouldn't say the performance is. We just have that as a singular in English. So I would just go the performance, and then you need a singular verb is optimal. Okay. And now I want your opinion. What do you think? And then you can go into, in this essay, I will address this controversial question. Shed some light is a very nice idiom, but it's too informal for academic IELTS. So I would say I would address this controversial question by exploring the potential effects a certain way of dressing can provoke. Yeah, very nice. Great vocabulary here. A very nice starting paragraph. There are a lot of advantages. I wouldn't say a lot of. I say several is quite a good word you could use instead. A lot of is too informal. Advantages for certain companies to have, don't put a comma there, to have, or put in place is okay, a strict and formal dress code. We would say for the word that goes with dress code quite often is to adopt a dress code, which is not usually it's used in a different context with children and things, but we would say you adopt a formal dress code. Depending on the nature of the work, employees who dress smartly, I think you need a relative clause in here, or who are smartly dressed, so you need that, who are, can bring many benefits to the organisation. For instance, restaurants need waiters to be, don't forget your verbs in here, formally dressed. Now, maybe you want to change the word dressed to appear formal, or to, because you don't want to repeat the words any more than we have to, for many reasons. Firstly, one needs to be able to recognise a waiter when entering the restaurant. So true. And a special dress code applied. So rather than addressed, you should have applied. Right. To all waiters should make this possible. Okay. So applied to all waiters should make this possible. Secondly, a well-dressed waiter. So instead of well-dressed here, you could say a recognizable or an easily recognizable, rather than repeating again well-dressed, will contribute greatly to the reputation of the restaurant. Knowing, because, so don't use the punctuation here, use the connecting word instead. Because knowing an employer represents the organisation he works for, a waiter who presents a good image of himself will to a certain extent demonstrate which status in terms of high standard the restaurant holds. Okay, this is a very complicated sentence. I can see where you're going, and it's correct. It's quite long. It's quite tricky to read because you've got so many of these little comments going on and subsections. But knowing an employer represents the organisation he works for. Employee, I think you mean, not employer. So the person. Knowing the employee represents the organisation he works for. A waiter who shows, yeah. I don't think you need to I don't think you need that. I think that would make it clearer if we take out that. Which let's go the standards, the high standards. Put it into this as adjectives, and status of the restaurant, just of the restaurant. Okay, then I think that simplifies it a little bit. It's just a little bit easier to read. Congratulations on such a complex sentence. Sometimes it's just a little bit too heavy, but that's a very good paragraph again. On the other hand, don't put it's not to forget. Just go straight in with this. The majority of employees who work for various companies or organisations do not need to represent their employers by or with special types of clothing, since they have no face-to-face contact with customers. Good. Anyone working with, in a customer service centre, you probably say in rather than for actually, in a company the customer service sector where complaints are made by phone, for example, can do an extremely good job and still be casually dressed. Very good point. Indeed, if the employees do not need to be people who matter for the future of the companies, there's no need for them to be specially dressed. Okay, yeah, it's sort of a bit repetitive, but you can put an example in here. Say, for example, it has been a recent survey agreed that employees didn't need to be specially dressed or something. One could argue the fact that an employee who takes customer complaints over the phone would not lose his working aptitudes by changing his clothes. Good. Little bit repetitive this, but maybe you could give another example as well as the phone example. Lose, so I would say would not lose his working aptitude or ability or professionalism. Let's use that word. By changing his clothes. I think that makes your point. Good, nice, again, nice paragraph. Little bit repetitive, maybe you could have had another example here or reinforced it by the sort of the therefore it is clear that, or customers said they didn't mind what the people were wearing or something like that. To sum up, I would definitely say to conclude rather than to sum up. I believe that, not I conceive, that's different, that's to do with think. I believe that employees should dress smartly if they need to look good in the eyes of people valuable to the enterprise. Nevertheless, if any worker, but those workers who do not interact with the public should not feel obliged to dress so formally, or something like that. Okay, that might be a nicer final sentence, but you've done very well here. This is a good essay. I don't know if you've done Ielts before or when you're planning on doing it, but I think in terms of task achievement, you've answered the question. Definitely get your opinion in the beginning. In terms of the coherence is good. It reads through really nicely. It's easy for me to understand. The grammar is good. Nice, ambitious, complex sentences, which is always good to see. Vocabulary also good, except for a little bit limited here. It's got a lot of repetition going on. So always try and kind of vary your vocabulary as much as possible. If you have time before your exam, you might be interested in the online course we do, which has little modules talking you through every aspect of task 1 and task 2. Lots of practice, lots of essay corrections like this as well. So have a look at that. You might find that useful. Thanks very much. Well done.